tyranny almost always reflects the demonic domains. Why? Because they are a slight mirror of each other. Those who adhere to the principles of tyranny, control, subjugation, the erosion of individual liberty, and the demonic domains, Satan, his minions. You can almost always predict behaviors based off where people sit spiritually. What do I mean by this? Well, you know, when you look at groups of people, especially political groups, they tend to align with the ideology of the spiritual nature. So you could say that conservatives typically, primarily, tend to be more Christian in their values. They tend to have a stronger reverence for the sanctity of life. They tend to have a stronger reverence for individual liberty, free will, freedom, but also understanding that those things come with a big responsibility. Whereas people that typically sit to what we would label as the left, the secular progressives, Democrats, socialists, people that hold those left-leaning ideologies, they tend to adhere to a more demonic spiritual underpinning or foundation, because they don't believe in freedom. They don't believe in self-determination. They believe that by holding on to their ideals and their ideologies, that they are solely responsible for determining the outcome of mankind. How does this sound familiar? Well, it should sound familiar, even to the most cursory scholar, even to the most cursory student of theology. You don't need to be a constitutional scholar. You don't need to be a theological scholar to understand these things. Our society is a mirror of our spiritual underpinning. Right now, our society is got some problems. We've talked about this a little bit. You know, we talk about this gender issue. We've talked about this in the past few videos, and I'm going to probably make this the last of these videos of this nature. Why is it that in our culture currently there is this obsession and fascination with the neutrality of gender? Why is the polarity out of balance? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because if you look at the demonic realms of things, they tend to sit kind of in the middle on everything. Androgyny is one of the characteristics of the demonic realm. Whereas God's plan, and it's a mockery, right? It's a mockery. The reason it's a mockery is because they can't have what God's promised. They can't have what God has created because they cannot create. They can only destroy, and they can only influence people like you and I. And they will never be in the presence of God ever again. And that's a pretty bitter pill to swallow for a lot of them that made that choice at the very beginning. And our existence here on this earth is a test to a very significant degree. We're meant to learn, we're meant to have these experiences, and we're meant to make choices and have free will. It's where Lucifer and God had their differences. Lucifer said, no, I'll go down and make them bend to your will. I will make them believe in you. And God said, no, I want them to do that on their own. Why am I coming at you with this really heady opening sequence of this video? It's because this is all the underpinning of the world. And what we're seeing take place across this globe all stems from all of this. This has been the age-old battle throughout the history of the world. There's nothing new under the sun, so don't think your existence on this planet is some new and unique and you're going to figure it out and you're going to do it different. You're going to be presented with choices through your life. We all are. We're all presented with choices through our life and lives. And those choices we make they determine different outcomes. Nothing's random, although it may seem like that from time to time. It's easy to get mired into the day-to-day, the secular day-to-day stuff. But if you step back from it a little bit, look at the bigger picture, and understand that there's more to it than meets the eye. Close fight issue. What's the close fight? Iran's still the close fight. Cuba is the close fight. Now, let me ask you this. Why do you think Cuba is having all of these problems all of a sudden? They imported the majority of their resources from Venezuela. What happened in Venezuela? We removed their dictator, Nicolas Maduro. We removed him from power. And we basically have taken control of the resources in that country, in our hemisphere. Very resource-rich country, and it's having negative effects on Cuba. This is the big geopolitical stuff that's going on. We're doing this very intentionally, trying to get them to the negotiating table so then that we can kick out the communist government of Cuba. Those people in the Communist Party don't have any desire to do what's in the best interest of the populace of that island. For the aforementioned reasons at the top of this video of the things we're discussing. So we're going to create a scenario that's favorable for not only us, our self-interest as a free nation, but for the people of that country. I think when we get to the end of this, they're going to be very happy that we've done what we have done. Okay, so that is a close fight issue. Near fight, United Kingdom. Okay, now, because of all of this business going on in Iran, as of recent, you're starting to identify who is with us and who is against us merely by just the fact that we've said, hey, we would like for these alliance nations to join us in this fight against tyranny. The United Kingdom's got their own problems internally, so I don't think they're in a good position to lend us a hand for pretty much anything. So I don't think we're going to count on them. I think we have the means and the resources at our disposal to take care of this Iran issue. But that's not going to stop the detractors from coming out of the woodwork and voicing their opposition to all of it, because it really comes down to the fact that they just don't like our president. They just don't like him. And there's something about him that they don't like. And it ties into the thing we've been talking about in this video series. I've watched interviews with Trump on the various feeds, on the various outlets. And he's been asked point blank if he's one of these kind of people that likes to release his energy. And he's basically said, no, I don't do that. He goes, I'm not a guy that does that kind of thing. He goes, I've got more bigger things to worry about than that. So that should tell you a lot. And so when you look at somebody who opposes him diametrically, you should understand that they probably have differing values when it comes to the release of that energy, that sexual energy. I know you guys are probably really uncomfortable with me talking about this, but I think you're going to find as you take on this practice, you become less inhibited in terms of wanting to discuss this and less embarrassed about it, because I think deep down you know that what you're doing is not good for you in a lot of ways. And again, this is probably the last video I'm going to do on this subject, because I'll put the links down below, because there are people that really dedicate a lot of time and energy to this. So I'll put the links below, go check them out, and you can draw your own conclusions. Deep fight, the mirror of the supernatural. That's what our life is. We mirror a lot of the supernatural in many respects, on earth as it is in heaven, right? Part of the Lord's Prayer. Okay. So if you see a society that's tending or trending more secular, understand that there is probably a negative influence somewhere in and amongst it. I mean, our society is inundated with really bad behavior. All you have to do is just turn on the news and look at all these sexual scandals in the education field, everywhere, really. They're everywhere. I mean, it seems to be just increasing exponentially as of recent. Tyranny, a reflection of demonic domains. Right, that's a point. The closer you get to God, a sense of calm will start to come upon you. Get on your knees every morning and give your day to God. Talked about that in the last video. You're not going to have a perfect day. You're not going to have a perfect life. You're going to have challenges, but it's going to be easier when you surrender some of these things. Let His will work through you. Right. Put your faith in Him. The earthly pleasures will evaporate. None of this stuff's going to last. This is all temporary. You guys know that. It's just the nature of the world. Enjoy your time here. Learn the lessons you need to learn. Love your family. Love your neighbor. Embrace forgiveness. That's a tough one. Again, talked about that in the last video. Forgiveness is a tough one. Because nobody wants to be disrespected. Nobody wants to feel like they're being wronged. But we're all guilty of it at some point. Here's one. Reset that polarity. Okay, we talked about that polarity, right? The masculine frame, the feminine frame. Try to reset it. Take on this practice. Do 7 days, at the very least. On day 7, if you feel so inclined, come back, comment on it. Go another 7 days, and then go another 7 days, then go months, and then take it on out and see how you feel. See how your perspective starts to shift. Suicidal empathy, okay, that's a big thing in our country. We have this suicidal empathy for people that don't like us, they don't like our way of life. But we become so empathetic that it's to our detriment. Be mindful of that. I mean, it's good to be empathetic to the people of Iran. We love the people of Iran. The people of Iran we have no problem with. It's their government. It's the regime that we don't like. And that is problematic. And you can't be empathetic towards them because all they want to do is subjugate and destroy and harass and kill. That's all they are programmed to know because of their ideology. All right. And this isn't Burger King. You can't always have it your way. Remember that when Burger King had that advertising campaign, you can have it your way. And then you get to entry-level training, at least in the Marine Corps, the drill instructors used to love to say this, oh, this isn't Burger King, you can't have it your way, as a means to kind of mock you. They would take a lot of those individualistic traits that they would see in recruits and they would stamp on them, and that was one of the things they liked to say. And it was kind of funny, you know, we laugh about it, but that's the way the world is. Everybody wants this president to do a very specific thing that they themselves desire. And when that doesn't happen, they get really upset because Trump didn't do this specific thing, or he didn't do this specific thing that I wanted. He's got to do what's best for the nation. And sometimes that's going to run counter to some things that you and I hold as personal to us. But you just have to learn to kind of step back and say, you know what, what's the bigger picture? Again, what's best for the nation as a whole? And sometimes that's going to run counter to some of our personal biases and some of our personal feelings. So yeah, this isn't Burger King, and you can't always have it your way. Just learn to deal with it. And you will. You are stronger than you give yourself credit for. It's my closing point. You're a lot stronger than you give yourself credit for. Again, I always like to fall back to the military. That's a good kind of baseline for me to, you know, promote some of these ideas. And a lot of you guys that are coming to this channel probably, you know, maybe have a similar background and can speak on this. When you're forced to do things that you don't think you can do, and then when you get through them, you're like, oh, you know what? That wasn't so bad, and I didn't die. I may have been really tired, I might have been really sore, and I might have had some recovery time that stretched out a little bit longer than I thought it would. But it didn't kill me, it made me stronger, and it made me reflective that, you know what? You can do this stuff. You are stronger than you think. We'll talk more. See you guys soon.